Okay, guys, as a minority who has grown up in some very interesting neighborhoods that always had a candy lady, I never thought that I would say the candy lady was not good. Hi, guys, my name is Maria Park, and this is Approach the Nerd. In this episode, we are reviewing Batwoman, Season 2, Episode 4, entitled Fair Skin and Blue Eyes. This was an interesting episode. We learned a lot more about Alice, and we've learned a little bit more about Ryan's backstory, which is interesting. So instead of recapping, because if you watch this and if you're watching this video, again, you definitely watched the episode. So I don't have to go verbatim, but I will talk about some of the things that I thought was cool, some of the things that I had to nitpick about, and then my overall impression of the show. So all right, so we know that the False Face Society is pushing the snake bite drug. Scarecrow will be proud. And we see Ryan chase down, well, not really chase. She finds a guy who is, basically he just bought some and he's on it. And she convinces him in a very funny way to give up his, supplier. I think she does. I mean, it looks like he was talking. But so the alarms go off. I think it's a shopping district. I have to go back, or a gallery or something. And she comes to investigate, and it's a young boy who has flyers of, his brother who has been missing. His older brother's been missing for I want to say 2 to 3 months. It's definitely some months. And the little boy's like, I'm sorry, I don't have access to the back signal. So this is the only way I can really get your attention. Nobody will help me find my brother, and, will you? And the young boy's name is Kevin Johnson. I think he's 15, if I remember correctly. So he goes missing. This starts off, we get a lot of flashbacks for Ryan's. She's really triggered by this whole thing, because we find out when she was younger, she was moving around from foster home to foster home. And she gets kidnapped by a woman who goes by the Candy Lady. She looks like a regular, suburban housewife with even a minivan. And at the time, Ryan was really into comics. She loves this comic called Ghost Kid. And I swear I have been racking my brain, guys. I do not know who this character is. I don't know if this is a real character. It may have been a creation for Ryan, considering she feels like a ghost or whatever. And I think the theme of the motto or whatever slogan of this comic is the kid that's not really there or whatever, that nobody can see, something like that. Now, to be fair, this could be a comic book character that's based off of a real ghost kid, like Kid Eternity, or maybe Dead Man, or maybe Ghostmaker, but I don't know who Ghost Kid is. So if you guys know who Ghost Kid is, if this is a real character in DC and I just don't remember, or I've never read it, please leave me a comment, because I know there are a slew of just random C characters in DC that are obscure. So maybe I just don't know it. I can't figure it out. And also Hero Galaxy Comics. I didn't Google this. I didn't feel like it. So if Hero Galaxy Comics has some significance in the DC universe, please let me know, because it sounds familiar, but I can't tell if that's something I heard on Big Bang Theory or if it's actually a real legit store in one of the comic universes. So let me know. So anyway, so Ryan goes to the Hero Galaxy Comics. She's outside where they have a stand of free comics, and she's like, trash, like Looney Tunes is trash. Like, oh, we see a Claw, and she goes straight for the Ghost Kid pile. And so Candy Lady approaches her saying that her son outgrew these comics and she's about to donate them. And, she would love if the girl would go through them. And at first Ryan's like, no, stranger danger, which he should have kept. But eventually, her seeing the comics in the crate is too much for her little self to resist. And so she goes to look, and of course, someone sprays her in the face, which knocks her out, and then takes her back to her house, where she proceeds to do this battle of wills thing. She has this jar of jelly beans. There's 60 of them, and she's like, every day I'm going to take one out, and that's every day nobody's coming to find your ass, basically. And so Ryan's like, you're never going to break me. Well, a little bit before that, we meet Ryan's ex as a child named Angelique. So they actually met in one of the foster homes that Ryan was in. And, Angelique would sneak in through the window and Ryan would let her in, and they just instantly bonded. And then, eventually became girlfriends when they're older. Well, Angelique literally gets herself caught to save her. And I thought that was really interesting. And I'm going to get more into Angelique in a minute, but she gets herself caught by the candy lady and then literally basically busts her out. Right before that, though, we learned Ryan's kismet connection to Beth once again. Like, not only is Alice's gang responsible for the death of her mother, um, we also have seen, well, actually, she had a connection with Kate too, because of course, Kate as Batwoman saved her too in the past. But when Ryan was kidnapped, it was around the same timeline that Beth apparently was being held hostage too. And there's a group of kids that come to the door to find a young girl. So she's thinking it's for her. But then the candy lady, who was paranoid and gagged and tied Ryan up and told her not to make any noise, she's down there and she's like, what does the kid look like? And they say fair skin, blue eyes, and wearing a red necklace. And that's when she realizes that they're talking about a white girl, not that they're talking about Beth. And I just think they keep having these parallels in their lives, which is very, very interesting, that while Ryan was being kidnapped, they were looking for Beth. I thought that was interesting. But yeah, so Angelique helps bust her out. There's a scene where the candy lady's about to spray Angelique in the face, and Ryan jumps in the way and takes it. And then, Angelique's doing like this whole pep talk thing to wake her up. This becomes important later because later in the episode, Ryan goes to confront the candy lady saying, I'm here for Kevin Johnson. I'm claiming him. And there's some False Face Society members that are there, and they, of course, spray her in the face, tie her up, take her upstairs. And, for her to wake up, she actually starts having a flashback of Angelique trying to wake her up again, just like she did when she was a kid and they were being held hostage. So interesting scene. But my nitpick for this scene, the candy jar is on the table. The candy lady is downstairs with a knife. Two things bothered me about this. Why try to go kill this woman now with a knife when she's moving around and conscious? Why didn't you just kill her when she was unconscious? Why bother putting her in the attic? She's older now. Are you trying to, brainwash an adult who proved to you as a child that you can't break her? I don't understand what the need was to hold, Ryan hostage, tying her up and gagging her in the attic. Just kill her and get it over with. It didn't make any sense. And then the jar. How did the jar not break? Or how did the jar break and we didn't hear it break? Like, she knocks the jar down off the table and catches it on her legs. And then you get there and you see all these shards of glass. And, somehow she's very quickly gotten these, her bindings untied with this glass. In the 2 minutes that the lady heard her rustling and got the knife and walked up the stairs. That's very interesting. I mean, the house isn't that big. It doesn't take that long to get to that attic. So I'm just very confused on how that works. But that's I'm going to nitpick, guys. It's just what I do. So yeah, so that's that little portion of the story. So the candy lady, turns out she's recruiting people for the False Face Society. So orphans that, nobody would miss, and that she manages to brainwash into believing that they just want to have a family and that this will give them a family, turn into a life of crime and joining gangs, brainwashing these poor kids basically. And I guess when Ryan and Angelique were younger, they didn't remember where the house was, which is why she was able to continue this crap for years. Because you would think as adults, as badass as they would go back and take care of her, But, just little things I think about, guys. All right. So to lead up to finding Candy Lady, there was a lot of bonding with Mary, between Ryan and Mary. So Luke is off on a crusade to find Kate, because now that Sophie's back and let him know that Kate's alive and that she got it from Alice, he's gung-ho to find Kate. Mary is still having a lot of issues believing Alice. She doesn't want to get her hopes up, and she even says that Luke's going down the rabbit hole. So she instead goes on the Find Kevin Johnson mission with Ryan. I love when she's in the van and she's taking a selfie in Ryan's van and talking about it being vintage. And I thought that was really funny. And especially when Ryan's like, I don't really have any hubcaps, but okay, cool. And the carburetor or I was just putting the van down. But I really like that. And I love that Mary is now living in Kate's apartment and invites Ryan to be her roommate. So they're going to be roommates now. So that's going to be interesting. But something did come from this that I thought was very problematic for Ryan's future. And that is, in order to try to find Kevin, because I guess Ryan couldn't remember the house, Mary convinces her to text her ex, Angelique, to see if she remembers where the house was. And that opens the door for Angelique to come back in. Because at first she says, sorry, wrong number. But then by the end of the episode, they form a truce. And it looks like they're, probably going to rekindle their romance again. And that's not going to be a good thing for Ryan, because Ryan's supposed to be on the up and up. And especially if her parole officer finds out she's back with her ex, that's going to be a problem. But yeah, it's train wreck. And speaking of Luke trying to find Kate, so he goes to Sophie's place where he finds Sophie and Alice, because right before that, Alice decided to make herself at home, in Sophie's house. And she tells Sophie that to get Kate back, Sophia wants to find a man named Ocean. Now, I know Ocean's a made-up character. That's not a DC character. But apparently he is somebody that either betrayed Sophia, like I guess Alice did, or he did something. Sophia wants him dead. She even gives Alice a dagger to kill him in exchange for Kate. So she goes to Sophie, asks Sophie to help her use her computer and her access to try and find this guy. And she only knows the name is Ocean. So it's like doing a Google search for the word ocean. It's stupid. So yeah, it's the whole banter with Sophie and Alice is just weird. I do love that Alice does say that Sophie doesn't like to take risks, which is interesting, because when Luke gets there, the first thing she does is pull a gun on Luke because she's pissed that he tried to help, or he did help Kate set up her, and to her mind, her being in prison back in Arkham. But after she's talked off the ledge for that, and Luke is helping them, she lets it slip. Alice finally says, I need to find Ocean and kill him. And, Sophie's like, you didn't say anything about killing. But you have to look at Sophie. Sophie does not stop looking for Ocean. It's Luke that says, I found an address, don't tell Alice. Sophie was still like, oh, let's find this dude. I got to get Kate back. So yeah, I think Sophie's getting a little obsessed. A little bit. But I love how they're trying to connect everything in this universe. So when Sophie goes to the address that Luke gives her, it's one of 4 possible addresses, I believe, 3 or 4. There's already a girl there, and the girl literally beats Sophie's ass. She beats her ass. And I looked at this, scenario, and I'm like, that's Angelique, especially when Sophie said, don't I know you? And I'm like, yeah, that's totally Ryan's ex, and sure enough, that's who shows up at the end of the episode as an adult. That is Angelique. So she's going to be an interesting character. Sophie then goes to Jacob at the end of the episode and then says, we need to try and find Kate first, because Alice let her know before she knocked her out that she has every intention of killing, her sister, which I don't think is true, because who's she going to obsess over? I don't know. I think she's angry. I know she want to be the one to kill her sister, but I don't think that's what it is. But I will say this: she started having flashbacks of this Ocean guy, over on the on the island of Coriana. So that means that Sophia also introduced them, I guess, or trained him, as well as Beth. Now, I already told you what happened in the comics, with Sophia and Beth. So we may be getting a little bit of that in this episode. I'm not sure, but I know that something's going on with Alice's memory, and I have a feeling that Sophia did something and brainwashed her. It would be interesting if all of this psychotic stuff that she's been doing lately has been more of a Sophia influence. Yeah, she snapped, when she found her mother's head in the fridge, which anybody would, and, set the house on fire and kill people. But I really want to know if the major carnage started, actually killing people not related to her situation, started with Sophia. That would be an interesting plot twist if Beth really is brainwashed. I don't know. We'll see. We will see. But it does open up the possibility for more depth for that character, and maybe even some sympathy if that is the case, if she really is acting out on something that was planted in her head. Just throwing it out there. So at some point in this episode, we do have a meeting between Jacob and Ryan's Batwoman, and that's because he gets kidnapped by the False Face Society as this initiation for Kevin, young Kevin. And he has to shoot him, basically. And Ryan ends up saving Jacob and talking down Kevin from the ledge. And then she hands the gun to Jacob and he's like, how did you know the kid was here? And she's like, simple, I looked. And throughout this episode, it does kind of shine a light on the imbalance in terms of when minority kids, especially Black kids, go missing and white kids, which a lot of people, I know there's so many reviewers out there that are going to scream agenda because they love to scream agenda. And I always notice that the people that are not affected by anything, not discrimination, segregation, phobia of any type, are the ones that are always screaming agenda. I don't understand that, but it is very true. But I will say this, as somebody who lives in the South, true story. After the last president was elected, the day after he was elected, I was shopping with my daughter in Fresh Market. And an elderly lady, white, came up to me and my child who were busy shopping, minding our own damn business, and said, what will you do and where will you go when we build a wall? Now, if you've been following my channel and you've been a subscriber of mine for a very long time, you know, yes, my name is Maria, and yes, I look racially ambiguous, but my father is Black and Apache, and my mother is from Scotland. None of those equal Hispanic. So number one, that was racist as hell, just in general, because she thought I was Hispanic. So that was racist. It was also pretty messed up because, as somebody who is part Native American, whose culture was here first, like, that is really effing insulting. And number three, that just shows you, it shines a light on this mentality. I don't understand this bubble of entitlement that people have and this fear, this overwhelming fear that people have. And I'm sorry, I'm getting political, guys, but living in the South, being a woman of color and queer, I'm sorry, you're going to hear it from time to time. This shit is not fake. It is not an agenda if it happens, if it shines a light on crap that's happening. Is cancel culture 100% flawless? No. Everyone has problems with cancel culture. But let's not forget that there are some people who need to be canceled. And that's just what it is. So when I hear people, like, especially when they dog on this show, they're like, oh, they have to make everything Black, the Black experience. Well, people don't work hard. They just expect handouts. And why the heck would people, oh, everybody's racist. Why would people think that everybody's racist? Not everything is a racist. I mean, people are just, completely exaggerating. And it's just, it really pisses me off because unless you live this life, unless you're not in that bubble, shut the fuck up. If you can say with all honesty that you face discrimination based on the color of your skin, your religion, your culture, your sexual preference, your gender identity. If you can say that and you still want to scream agenda, well, something's wrong with you, but you do you, boo. But if you have not faced this, why are you talking? Why are you having a conversation at all? And from what I've learned, it's easy to have these conversations over the internet. Not so much in person. People seem to be really effing quiet in person, except for the nuts that raided the Capitol. But that's a whole other conversation. So yeah, and rant. It is what it is. I don't care if people come at me for saying that. Again, in my 20s, I probably would have been scared. I'm in my 40s. I don't give a flying fuck. So it is what it is. It's what I believe. People need to stop with that shit. It is something that's happening. If you don't want to be force-fed something, then do something to maybe help stop the shit from happening to begin with. And then maybe you won't be force-fed things, that you obviously aren't learning because you're screaming agenda. So yeah. So where it is. But yeah, long story short, good episode. Very, very good episode. The only other thing that I want to nitpick about is the whole kryptonite poisoning. Ryan is not telling Mary or anybody about this poisoning, and it's spreading. And I'm like, why are you doing this? Are you scared that they're going to take the bat suit? They're going to think you're too incompetent to fight. Why are you not asking for help? I guess they'll use the excuse that she's never had to rely on people and she takes care of herself. But I mean, this is a medical issue. There are some green and black vines crawling through your chest that's spreading. You're in pain. You really, as a matter of fact, I think when she was actually chasing someone in the Batmobile, she started hallucinating a little bit or like losing focus. So it is really affecting her. And I don't understand why she literally hid it from Mary. Like she was looking at it in the mirror and then covered it up. I'm like, why? Why? So much, guys. Just so much. So yeah, again, very, very good episode. I'm looking forward to seeing more of the False Face Society and the drug against, the war against the drug, snake bite, maybe even getting Black Mask. And I cannot wait to see what Ocean's role is in this. And the train wreck that is going to be Ryan and Angelique's relationship. I love all the little moments with Ryan and Mary. I don't know what Mary's sexuality is. I can't say I'm shipping her with Ryan. I can't say I'm not because, yeah, she seemed to have a little bit of interest in Luke, but now she doesn't. They seem more like brother and sister. I don't know. I don't know if Mary's bi, on the spectrum, you're straight. I don't know. So it would be interesting, though, if they become a couple eventually. But for now they're roommates. And I really want to know what was in Mary's box that Ryan found under the bed. But yeah, I think that whole relationship is just fun. And then I do want to see, I really hope we get more Sophia. I don't think Sophia is going to be the big baddie, though. I think that's probably going to be Black Mask. But I really, really want to see, what she did to Beth. I really want an episode just showing how they got Beth, because it's going to be different from the comics. But how they got Beth, what happened when they trained Beth, or Sophia trained Beth, and what is the connection between, Alice, or Beth really, and Ocean, since they do seem to know each other. Or at least she has memories of him. I mean, to me, it looked like they were a couple. Like, just for how she was looking at her and he was looking at her, like they were looking at each other. They look like a couple to me. So we'll see. I don't know. But yeah, that is my review in a nutshell. If I forgot something, guys, which is very possible, it's early, please leave me a comment below and let me know. And if you would like to sign up for jury duty, hit the subscribe button. If you'd like to know who's next in Nerd Valley, hit the notification bell. Until next time, I can't wait for you to approach the nerd. Bye, guys. Thank you for watching my video. I really appreciate it. But hey, the party doesn't have to stop now. Click on one of these videos and keep it going.